I'm going to resume my recording. Do that. All right, can all of you see my D2L screen here on the Ouija board? Those of you online, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna be starting project 1 today. So pretty much what project 1 is like a bigger version of what you guys did for exercise 1, where you guys took all those images and you made it into like a cohesive image. We're doing the same thing, except you guys get a lot more freedom. You guys get to pick your images. You get to design how they're going to sit. You're going to design the overall image itself. So this is our outline. You can find this on the write-up section of Project 1 Landscape Composition. You can follow along, but also if you need to reference it at any time, it is here for you. So Project 1 itself is going to be due on the 10th. So February 10th, that's a couple of days from now. What that means is all day in class today is a work day. Pretty much after I stop talking, you can go do what you'd like. Awesome, thanks, Ethan. So pretty much after I get done, you can use the rest of this time in class to gather images, come up with your idea, and pretty much all around design what you're going to be doing. Wednesday is also a work day. It's an optional day. You don't have to show up, but I do recommend popping in. I'll be here so that I can help you make sure your image is going to look nice. I do highly recommend you pop in either Wednesday or Friday into Zoom, especially if you're going to be at home, and see if your image is looking and matching what is the criteria is here. It doesn't have to be done in any means, but you do want to get my input. I do give nice critiques and I can help you get the best grade possible. But if you don't talk with me, I can't guarantee anything. So what are you going to be doing? Oh, also Monday is the same way. Monday is also a work day. So what are you going to be doing? The purpose of this project itself is to see how well you can make a realistic and unique landscape composition based off of images that you find online, based off images that you take yourself, and a combination of the two. You may definitely take your own images. So if you're like, I really want my dog in this picture, take a picture of your dog, take it outside, go on a walk, get it to sit in a nice little place on a rock, take a picture of it, Photoshop it into your image. We do have high-res cameras downstairs that you are more than welcome to check out. All you need is your ID. You got to sign some documents, sell your firstborn, that sort of thing. And then you can check them out for a few days. They will remind you if you're late or anything like that, but they will tell you when it's due when you get it. If you don't want to take your own pictures, you can definitely collect images online. As you notice, I have a whole bunch of tabs going on up here. We're going to take a look at some places where you can find non-copywritten images and talk a little bit about what that means as well. You want to make sure that your images are massive, like absolutely big. The image size that you guys are going to be working with is 16 inches by 9 inches at 200 ppi. We'll look at how to create that and how to export your image for turning in as well before I get done today. But you want something absolutely large, because if you pull in a really small image, it's going to be pixelated. It's not going to look right. It's going to be harder to make it seamless into your picture. You do need to use 8 different photographs. I will be looking at for 8 specific ones. If I can't tell there is one, I will ask you about it. I do recommend 12 though. 12 seems to be the best result that a lot of people get. It's easy to see where they are. And you'll get a nice cohesive look anywhere from 8 and up. And then what do you need to do? You can do this in Photoshop. I would prefer it in Photoshop. Photopea should work for this as well. You want to make sure that you save your own Photoshop PSD version. You want to make sure you keep a spare just in case you have to edit it later down the road. I do recommend keeping this because when you get to midpoint, if you want to turn in this for your midpoint project, it's easier to edit something than to start from scratch. That also being said, you are going to be turning in a TIFF file to me, not your Photoshop document, not a JPEG or a PNG or anything like that. It will be a TIFF file. And I'll show you how to save that out so that it looks the best it can. So it won't be massive or anything like that. So I mentioned collecting or shooting images that meets a specific size. When we're working on something like what we're doing, we want to try to keep in mind copyright. You don't want to steal someone's image. You don't want to sell something that's not yours. It's illegal. All that fun things. There's a little bit of tiny wiggle room for you guys since you're students, you're learning. You're probably not going to be selling this image or anything like that. But we still want to try to stay as copyright free as possible. So there's a couple of places online that you can do that. So on D2L under important links, the very first thing is places to find non-copywritten images. It's just a list of websites that you can go to that have images. And we're going to take a look at a couple of them just to kind of show you like where they are, that sort of thing. So the first one here is Morguefile. Pretty much it takes images that are in public domain. People submit some, but pretty much if it's out of its copyright time, it puts it on this website and gathers things for you. So you can be like, I really want to look at different stock images. You can come in here and find all of the photos in here. Now it does have some, like you have to pay for some from if you get it from iStock. You shouldn't have to pay for a stock footage image unless you really, really like that image. Free is best for stuff like this today. So that's Morguefile. There's also Pexels. Pexels also has a video section too. So if you're ever interested in doing something with stock footage, this is a good place to look too. But they've got a lot of really unique imagery in here that you can play with. There's Unsplash. It's another nice, good source free use images that you can use. You can look up pretty much anything and they'll probably have it. There's Pixabay. This is another one. So you can see they've got different images in here that are free for use for everything that are nice and royalty free. Grazigraphy is another place. They've got some more interesting and unique imagery. So if you want something a little bit more interesting, this is a nice place to get something like that. PicWizard is another one. They're more imagery focused, more interesting photos themselves. DeviantArt also has a nice stock footage section. They also have brushes and things that you can get for Photoshop too. So that's neat. But they have some really interesting landscape imagery that you can use, body references, things like that. If you've done anything with game design, I don't know if they'll tell you about textures.com or not. I'm sure you're probably aware of it. It's really nice for getting textures for models in your games. But there's also just regular photos in here that you can go into. So like you can go into like different buildings and get different building pieces to build like a city street or something like that. So it's just a nice place to be able to go find some pictures of some birds that you would want to put in to your imagery, things like that. And then if all else fails, you can always go to Google. So if we go to Google Images, and I just type in, I already did bunnies, we'll do bunnies. Look at all these cute little fluffy things. So this is what happens when you Google just straight on here. Now, not all of these images are free to use. Some of them are copywritten, some of them might have watermarks. To be sure that something is copyright free, you can come over here to Tools and go to Usage Rights right here. And you'll see currently right now it's just every image that's got a bunny in it. But if we change it to Creative Commons, so this is pretty much just like free to use for learning, you're not selling it, that sort of thing. You can click on that one. And these are all the bunny images that now show up that are within that specific license. So there's also commercial and other licenses. So these are all the ones that you could sell. You see there's a lot more stock footage stuff here. Yeah, you're adults. But you can always come back here and take a look at it. Normally, if it's a news website, it's free to use. They just don't have it listed as that. So just be aware for this. Now, something else you do need to know, especially if you're going to use Google image search, under tools for size, you want to make sure you're only getting large images. You don't want anything small or icon. And even then, if you look at some of your images, so like if I click on this one, you'll see this one says 2000 by 1360. That's the resolution size. You want something massive about like that. If it's in the like 100 to 400 to 800 range, it might be too small and you'll get some pixelization and then it won't look as good. Look at their little noses. Does anyone have a question about where to find imagery like this? Anyone on the internets? Okay. I'm going to open up Photoshop just to show you how to save and create these files. You don't have to follow along right here if you don't want to, but if you do want to go ahead and make your template for your project one, you can. So pretty much what you're going to be doing is when you hit create new here, you want your width to be 16 inches by 9. You want to make sure it's in landscape and that your resolution is 200. And then you want to make sure it's in RGB mode. Pretty much, this is the standard that we're going to use for both this project and project 2. So once I hit create, it'll make me something nice here. I'm just going to make a little blue smiley face. I'm going to make another layer, make a green frowny face, and then another layer, like this little lime colored like meh face. So we've got layers here. For your project, you should have 8-ish plus layers. So when we're saving this out, we want to save it as a TIFF file. So you do want to go File and Save As. Make sure you're saving a Photoshop document for yourself. So I'm going to call this Smileys 001. This is section 1. So you want to save a version for yourself. Tell it OK. And then you also, when you go to export, you want to go Save As. You want to change this from Photoshop to TIFF. It's the very last one. And all you want to do is uncheck layers right here. So you want to save as a copy. Because we don't want, I don't want you guys to turn into me all of the layers. It's a really massive file. Pretty much if you save as layers, it's like having 2 Photoshop files. We just want to save as a copy when you turn it in. So make sure you're saving the layers as a Photoshop document for yourself. But when you go to turn it into me, you want to make sure it's a TIFF. And then you'll hit save. It'll be like, how do you want to do this? Default is great. You just want to hit OK. And that's all you got to do. So now, if I come over here, you'll see I have our Smileys 001 Photoshop document, and then I have a Smileys 001 TIFF file. So you can see the size differences of those. The Photoshop file is going to be a lot smaller, but I'd have to open up Photoshop to see all your imagery. With the TIFF file, so like if I close this here, so if I click on this 001 here, you can't see my other screen, but Photoshop's like, I'm opening. I'm going to take 8,000 years. But if I looked, there it goes. But if I double click on this TIFF, it just opens my image. So when you save for yourself, save a Photoshop file. When you're saving to turn in, save as a TIFF. Questions about that at all? Awesome. And then once you go to actually turn it in, give me this. You want to make sure you save it as your last name, project one landscape.tiff. That's very bad. And then you're just going to turn that into the Dropbox here on D2L. So you will have a few days. So you'll have the rest of class today, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, and then it's due Wednesday. Questions at all about the project before I show you some really cool examples? No, no questions? Questions online in the camera box? Awesome. Okay, so let's look at some examples of project one. So here's a nice example. You can see that there's multiple different images here. We've got a building. We've got this, like this is probably a hill. This is probably an image. This is probably its own image. It might be placed on a water. There's obviously another boat here. We've got a bridge. We've got a background. We've got more villages and a mountain, probably a different sky and some birds. And there's this one. So we've got a different mountain here, another mountain here, nice ridge with some buildings up top. We've got a road, we've got some flowers, different imagery all through. You can have fun with it. So if you want to make some volcanoes and explosions, so long as you're lighting, so make sure you're keeping track of lighting, perspective, so long as everything works and looks properly, you can have fun with this a little bit. This is an example of what I was talking about with taking your own images. This was someone's dog. They took it on a walk up to Roan Mountain, had their dog sit pretty much just on a rock by itself, walked off, took a picture, added it in. So we have some mountains here. They painted in a waterfall. There's some plants here, building here, some birds, and her dog. Another nice cohesive landscape. Where does one picture start and the next begin? You can go a little bit more somber. You can go a little bit more entertaining. You can go sci-fi. So this would be someone took this building here, a bunch of buildings here, some fuzzy ones in the background, other buildings. They took different parts of different buildings to make a spaceship looking object. They added in some bokeh lights. They made a spaceship here. They added in some little painted flares and then put a nice texture over top to give it a more cohesive, color corrected feel. You can go with something a little bit close to reality. You can go super different off of reality, go something a little bit more fantasy based. This looks like one of those posters that you'd see in the 90s or early 2000s. We got some whales and like a little gully, beautiful stars, nice lighting. You really want to be keeping track of how your lights are going. So obviously with this image, more sci-fi, our sun is over here. This building is blocking it, so it's darker. These buildings are facing it, so they're lighter. We've got a nice perspective on our planets. They get darker, they get a little less visible. If you're going to add in planets or moons, make sure you're keeping track of how atmospheric perspective works. We wouldn't see the whole moon all at once unless it's glowing. And even then, like sometimes it's a little lighter, even then. So make sure you're keeping track of that. You wouldn't be seeing these rings over top of clouds, that sort of thing. It's another somber one. It's a little darker. It's harder to see on the projector than it is on a screen. Now, you can also go a half and half hand painted and imagery design. So this person had a bunch of images. So we've got some deserts, a tree, some rocks, and then they added in some sandy buildings and painted over them to get the look that they were looking for to match their rocks. They made a spaceship, gave it some blur, added some lighting. painted in some lens flares. Or the higher route, this one is the one that will take the longest, is you can go more hand painted. If you're going to do this, please tell me first. And I will be like, yes, you have enough time. Or no, don't try this. How this one works is you can see, like here, they sampled with the magic tool or the magic wand to get windows, to get all the colors out of windows, filled it with black, and then painted it. So instead of having images, they're using the colors to drive how things are layered. So this right here would be an antenna from some sort of Wi-Fi cell tower. Right here's probably some building windows. Right here's just a whole bunch of different imagery. You can go this route, but do know it's going to take you a lot longer than just finding your images and making them match together. But it is in the realm of possibility. So if this is something you want to do, let me know beforehand. We'll walk through it. This one's done professionally. This is like a professional person's, but it's not off the table. Questions about any of the examples? Questions about project one in general? Megan, if you'll stick around, I'll also catch you up. So don't worry about that either. Questions? Questions? Okay. So that's project one. Again, let's do the 10th. This is the extreme option. I'll take something like this. This is still a nice project here. Something like this, or like this, like this. Questions? If you don't have questions, the rest of this in-class time, so you've still got about an hour and a half, is lab time. I would spend it looking up images, coming up with an idea. That might be like you take a piece of paper and a pencil or in Photoshop and be like, I want a tree here, I want a building here, maybe a dog up there. And then finding images that correspond with that. Make sure you're keeping in mind perspective and lighting. If for some reason you're like, I really want to have a bear in the center of my image. Ooh, a spam call. Cool. Let's get rid of that. If like I want a bear here, get a lot of different bear images, different positions, different lighting, different things like that. That way you're not stuck with just one image and trying to make it fit. You have options and maybe plugging in different ones to see which one works best. But that being said, that's all I have for class itself. So if you do want to pop off and go find a snack or lunch or take a nap, you can do so. I'm not going to stop you. But do be aware, I do highly recommend you popping back in either today or Wednesday or Friday to get my input on your project so you can get the best grade possible. Okay, I'm going to end my share and stop my recording.